Welcome back, Leatherhead Nation, to the Getting Salty podcast experience, podcast experience. It's the only podcast in the world that brings the Firehouse Kitchen Table to you. As always, joined by my buddy who is on the road in Iowa, so he could be checking in, checking out. Gary. He's in Iowa. Ruffy Ruffrano. We got Petey, producer Pete, Proby Pete on the wheels of steel.
Shalom.
Bringing another great episode. The Chief was already breaking my balls in the pre-show. I love it. love it. But Petey, before that, let's get to the shameless plug, my friend.
Oh, my goodness. If you guys don't already know, then you should know that we are brought to you by GettinSaltyExperience.com. Guys, I don't know if we're the original, but it sure feels like we are the original firefighter apparel brand. And of course, we're bringing you shirts like this. This is my favorite one. You know, this is the one was gifted to me by Mr. Kev there on my birthday. It's got a great quote by Roosevelt on the back, who's now been canceled. But anyway, moving forward, we love the apparel, love the hats, love the drinking mugs, all that wonderful stuff. If you want to support us, if you want to support the show, head on over to GettinSaltyExperience.com. My kids appreciate it. Thank you.
And Pete, before I take another swig, the word of the day, please.
This is a good one. The word of the day, ladies and gentlemen, it's the term of the day. It is Squad Father.
The Squad Father. Whoa! So, yes, tonight we do have the Squad Father. We have the one and only Navy man, Squad Father, Chief Jerry Tracy. Whoa!
I've been called many things,
but never Jerry Tracy. Welcome to the show, Chief. Welcome.
I tell you what, Getting Salty. What a great handle, if you will, to say. When I first became a firefighter, that was something that every young firefighter wanted to be, was to get salty. To looking up to all of those firefighters, because when I came on the job, the same year as Mike Mullen, 1977, the job hadn't hired anybody for 7 years. Well, more than that. Let's say it was about 4 or 5 years. But in any event, all of those firefighters were, it was the warriors. They were going to fires. Their helmets looked like drones, and we were coming on with these bright new shiny uniforms, and it was like, oh my God. I want to be like that guy. I want to look like that guy. Getting salty. That's what it was about.
Smell like smoke like that guy.
Cologne. You need the cologne.
You come into quarters, from home, and the place smelled like a job.
Nice.
Yeah, I love it.
Oh, nothing better than that.
You know, they just went to work, and they were still in the kitchen with dirty faces and still talking about it. It was great.
Oh, the Warriors. But before we get to the Warriors, let's talk about this man was an accomplished Navy man. Since he got on there to get some trim, but I think it was more than the trim, bro. I think it was more. Look at
this young gentleman.
Wow.
Now this has got a good story behind the ship you were on. Why don't you tell us about that? Because I'm buffing out right now, real hard.
You know what he looks like in that picture, though? What's that guy's name? Donnie. Who was the kids on the block? Donnie.
Donnie Wahlberg.
Donnie Wahlberg. Look at him. It's a young Donnie Wahlberg.
He's like, who?
Who? What? Donnie who? Donnie and Marie? What?
I spent 4 years on that ship. And believe me, in rough seas, I used to get seasick. But what a great home. There was only 145 guys on that ship. And you knew everybody by their first name.
And who did you guys deliver around the world? Who did you mainly work with on that ship, which was the coolest part of the story?
We were, our home port was San Diego. And when we went overseas, and we were deployed twice, 9 months each time, to the South China Sea, to Vietnam, if you will. And our mission over there, we were carrying on board the UDT, you see the Frogman there, teams of underwater demolition teams, and of course the newly found SEAL teams, because the SEAL teams were only founded in 1961. And this here picture here, and we were overseas 1965, 66, and 67. So the SEALs were rather new. And myself being really a young sailor, the SEALs, they could walk around the ship however they wanted. They didn't have to be in uniform. They could be in a bathing suit. As a matter of fact, when they deployed off of our ship, and we were on a couple of operations where these guys would, we were in the, let's say, the delta of the Saigon River, on an operation where we were trying to clean up the river. In that there was Viet Cong sabotaging, let's say, cargo ships that were going up to Saigon, and they wanted to clean up the river and get rid of all of these VC, if you will. So the SEALs would go into, and they were almost like a rowboat, but they had an outboard motor. But the outboard motor was silent. Once you started up, you couldn't hear it. And these guys were dressed in black pajamas, and they could take whatever weapons they wanted. It could be 2 6-shooters, almost like cowboys. And all they did was go out and do recon, finding where the VC were, and then during the day, the Marines and the UDT would go take care of it. We looked at the SEALs, they were mercenaries, not even, they were all in their 30s. I was in my 20s.
Well, they were starting to figure out what to do with them because the UDTs had a very specific mission in World War II, clearing the landing zones, like on Omaha Beach and all. But then the SEALs were a whole new concept. So those guys, they were there to mainly disrupt the VC on that delta. But that's incredible that you got to work with. They got to work with you, and you got to work with them. That's pretty awesome.
They were still clearing beaches. My ship, if you will, many of the amphibious landings were, let's say, supervised from my ship, if you will, because we only had a 17-foot draft, so we could go in real close. And we would drop the UDT off on the beach. They would put up flags, a red flag and a green flag, for all the landing craft to come in between these flags, because that's where we knew there were going to be sandbars. But they would clear the beach, and what was waiting for the, let's say, the landing, were these bamboo shoots that were dipped in sheep dung or poison, so that if any of our military stepped on, they would be poisoned, or infected. So,
and then these guys, they cleared, just to put it in perspective for everyone, there were no wetsuits. These guys were clearing in a pair of UDT shorts and a knife, a pair of flippers if they were lucky, and the goggles. That's it. If they had anything, so they were the baddest of the bad. Yeah, awesome.
It might be like going to fires in a pair of blue jeans and a jacket. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Not that hard. Not that hard.
A rooftop neutral.
The what?
A rooftop neutral.
Yeah.
Flip flops.
Allegedly.
Nick is a great guy.
Yeah. What do you know?
He's the best.
Hey, I tell you what, he wasn't. He wasn't the squad father, though.
Oh! You always get me when I'm pouring a drink, bro.
Hated the squad.
I almost became the captain of 111, and I didn't. And if I would have become the captain of 111, I never would have been a squad fighter.
Whoa!
Hey!
I got a drink. What's going in there? Holy mackerel, Andy. All right, so you get it. What you get discharged in what? 68? May of 68?
Right.
And you stay in California, sunny California. What were you doing in California? Working for the Hollywood porn star? What were you doing?
Well, I didn't have the mustache like Hay. So I couldn't get in those films. He had that mustache early, up in 26, I believe. Now, I worked downtown LA for a company that didn't pay their taxes. I come to work one morning on a Monday morning, and there's a lock on the door, and I'm out of a job. So I bounced through a couple of jobs, talking to a friend of mine back home. He said he was getting married. I'd like you to be my best man. And I says, I'll be right there. Hopped in my car and drove back to New York. It took me 120 hours to drive nonstop.
What kind of car?
56 Chevy, baby.
Yeah, a 56
Nice.
Chevy. I'm leaving California. I'm driving through Needles, which is probably the last town before you leave the state. And I see what I believe is like an old man hitchhiking on the road. So I turn around, I go back, I pick the guy up. It's a 19-year-old hippie with a beard down to here. I says, well, where you going? He says, well, I'm going to Bainbridge, Maryland. I says, I tell you what, pal, this is your lucky day because I'm going to New York.
No shit.
I'm driving until about 11 o'clock at night, and he's still awake. I says, do you know how to drive? Because it was a stick shift. He goes, yeah. I said, well, I'm going to take a nap. And I didn't tell him, and it was a habit of mine, since it was, a stick shift, I used to put it in neutral and put the emergency brake on.
Oh, my God. He drove with the brake the whole fucking way.
Oh, my God.
Holy fuck. Something's burning. And I wake up, and I know exactly what it was.
Oh, shit.
That emergency brake didn't go on. It didn't, let's say, expand the brakes on the tires. It grabbed the drive shaft. So now I put it back in, I take it off, I put it in gear, I pull out on the road, and now the car starts vibrating like you can't believe. I had to limp into a town. It was in New Mexico, Gallup, New Mexico. I pull into a gas station, and I had to wait for the only junkyard, the owner of the only junkyard in town, to come home from church, get me a transmission, bring it to the gas station. The gas station allowed me to borrow tools. I changed the transmission in the gas station.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
Now we're back on the road to New York.
That's why you don't pick up hippies.
Well, let's say Albuquerque, New Mexico, and for the fact that he was a hippie and he could speak the language, he went and bought some, let's say, herb for us.
Allegedly.
Exactly. So,
which is now legal in Jersey, by the way.
To live with this guy. So yeah.
All right, so he had his pros. He had a couple cons, but he had some pros.
About 2 miles from his house, and then I came home, and Manhattan was the trip. Driving through Manhattan with my '56 Chevy. I had never really driven in traffic like that before, so I could really appreciate it. It was fun.
Holy
sweet.
Shit.
So you get back, and you already took the test? No, you didn't take the test. You get back in what, '68, and you started taking all the tests for the city?
In '71, I took the test. Yeah, I took the police. I took sanitation. I don't know that I took the test for letter carrier because, my shoulders, the bag would have kept falling off my shoulder. So I don't know if I would have passed the test. But the police called me, and I thought to myself, because then if they call you, you could go one of three places. You could go subway, you could go housing, or you could be a regular cop. And I thought to myself, if they hire me, they'll probably put me in subway, and I'd have to be on a subway train at 3 o'clock in the afternoon when the kids from Franklin K. Lane are coming out and they're getting on that train, and I'm going to have to shoot one. So I know I don't have the temperament for that, so I turned that job down. I was 400 and some odd names away from being appointed in '73, and they froze the list. And then
for the fiscal crunch?
Exactly. And to tell you the truth, had I been hired, I probably would have been financially broke. I mean, really broke, had I been hired and laid off because I was still working in private industry. And to tell you the truth, I was making more money in private industry than I would have been as a firefighter. When I finally did get hired in '77, I took like a $5,000 cut to come on the job, but I knew it was going to be worth it. Let's put it
long term. Yeah.
Did you have any family on the job or anybody that you knew that was on the job that kind of steered you that way? Or no,
not at all.
Wow.
For me, it was 20 years in a pension. I had no idea after I got on the job how it was going to get into your blood and how all of a sudden it morphed and it became your whole life.
Yep.
To this day, and we'll talk about it. I mean, I was hired. They pushed us through probie school in 4 weeks.
Wow.
It was a whirlwind. And then I get assigned to 90 Engine in the Bronx, a great house. Let's put it that way. 90 and 41. My first tour was a Saturday day tour, and we catch a job on West Farms with 45 Engine, and we're stretching at 2.5. It's my first tour. And really, 90 and 41 at the time was a bedroom community, really. Most of our work, if you will, was relocated. We're heavy relocated. We were almost like the second section of 82 engine. And then, we were certainly part of interchange, and we interchanged the engine anyway with 75 engine, 68 engine, 92 engine, 42 engine.
Oh, shit. Yeah. Big stuff there, man.
Houses. And then the truck, 41 truck, used to interchange with 33 truck. Whatever house was going, and I did my 24s with one of the guys in the truck. His name was Bobby Marshall. And we had to be 24 partners, because if the two of us worked together, we were going to get in trouble. So we had to be opposite each other. And he's a great guy today. Bobby Marshall. I had a bike at the time, a Triumph. I'm bringing it into work in the middle of the Frog's Neck Bridge. My clutch cable went, so I limped into and paid the toll. So now I put it in, I get it in neutral somehow, and I run with it. I throw it in gear. I start, but now I can't change gears. And
right there.
I didn't stop for one light all the way to the firehouse. But Bobby Marshall was such a, let's say, a mechanic. He repaired my bike, in the firehouse, and I was good to go after that. But he was really good guy. So doing my mutuals in the truck, whatever company was interchanging, I'm going.
Yeah.
Exactly. Didn't matter, and it was fun. I was going to say, you were talking about that knife earlier. 75 and 33. They didn't have a TV room. All they had was a kitchen, and the bunk room. Yeah, that's a nice knife. The bunk room, about 4 feet outside the bunk room window, was a subway station, and you could hear people getting stabbed on the platform.
Holy smokes!
I mean, you're lying there, you're waiting for the next run or a fire, and it wasn't like they had a window. They had this huge fan. It almost looked like something out of a Tarantino movie. And you're listening to people fighting on the platform. What a place.
That's where you were going to go, right, Ruffy? You had gone to City Captain?
I mean, that's obviously when it was crazy.
Yeah,
absolutely crazy.
In a backyard, we used to play handball in, and they had a cyclone fence for a roof because people used to throw rocks and bottles at them when they were in the backyard.
Yeah.
What a place.
So, what makes you want to go to 108 Truck then from the Bronx?
I really enjoyed truck work, and I wanted to go to Attila. And the only Tillas in the Bronx was 39 Truck and 59 Truck. And 39 at the time wasn't really busy. 59 certainly was busy. And I didn't want to have to spend half my day on the Cross Bronx Expressway driving a 59 truck. I had a good friend who was in 216 engine. I went to visit him one day. And it might even have been in a time when there was, let's say, issues with the union and the medical office, blah, blah, blah. Guys were going down there and protesting, whatever. So I got on the subway and I took it out to 216, 108. And to tell you the truth, I knew the neighborhood from when I was a teenager before I went in the Navy. I used to sell ice cream in that neighborhood, soft ice cream. In the Williamsburg, the nicest section, the Italian section. So I knew the neighborhood somewhat. Now I got exposed to 108 216. They were doing a lot of work, and 108 was Attila. So I said,
right there.
I didn't know
that. So I came and interviewed, unlike Phil Bro, Captain Chief Bro.
Hey,
an interview. I actually showed up and met with Sal Russo, who was the captain, and basically I opened up my heart to say, "Hey, Cap, I want to come here and learn how to be a firefighter," and I meant it. I mean, I was already on the job 5 years. I was going to fires, but you know what? I knew these guys were good. They had a reputation, and to say getting salty, I want to be as good as them.
Right.
And,
so there was none of this, Chief, is what you're saying. There was none of this going on.
Nah.
A week later, I was on the order. And he knew people, you know. So let's put it that way.
Did, was Fat Daddy Ray there when you got there? He came after you.
He came after me.
Oh, so he was your bitch.
The Fonz was there, right? The Fonz was there.
Absolutely. I was so. Let's put it this way. In my career, this was one of the greatest gifts I was given. Was to work in a 108 truck. Let's put it that way. Not only did it have a reputation, but the generation of firefighters that were there at the time was so professional. You didn't have to answer to the officers. You had to answer to the members in the company. If you couldn't perform, you weren't going to last.
Right.
And one guy was better than the next. I mean, if I start giving you the names, you know, from Harry Ford to
Ford, right? I was just going to say that. Yep.
Mike Higgins, Mark, John Rail, you know, Tommy D'Agostino, Joe Mari. These two guys were the best forcible entry guys you'd want to have as an officer. I mean, if we have a fire in a bank tonight, guess what? You got the irons. But for me, and most of these guys were monsters. I mean, John Rail. And God bless, you know, John Rail's in the hospital right now. I don't know if you guys know him. He just had a stroke not too long ago. He retired as a chief in the 4th Battalion, but one of the funniest men you'll ever meet on the job. To say all of these guys were monsters, I had to learn how to use the tools. You know, they could kick a door in, or, you know, with their hips.
Right. Yeah, they were just big guys.
Breathe on the door and it would open up. So they taught me my craft. Let's put it that way. Yep.
Look at that guy.
Young and salty. You wanted to get salty. Here you go.
There it is, man.
And these guys, they were going in without a mask. It was tough. Who was tougher was 102 truck, because they had Dennis Cross, God bless him, he's in heaven now. Dennis never wore a mask, and anybody that worked in his groups also didn't wear masks. So it was like, I wouldn't say it was a competition, but it was tough keeping up with these guys. And 102 was a good truck, because with fires and brownstones, if they beat us in, they would have portables in the rear of the building, and I'd say, how did these guys get the portable back there? So in other words, working with trucks like 102, 111, 112, they brought, let's say, the notch way up here, the bar way up here, to where you wanted to be good, you wanted to be better than them, and believe me, we felt that we were one of the best trucks on the job. Let's put it that way.
As you should, right?
I mean, back then, 108, that was, you know, at that time, you guys were doing, you know, some of the busiest work in the city at that time. 108. See, what was that? Siegel Street? Is that Siegel Street that time?
No, it was already on Union Avenue. I didn't work in Siegel Street. There'd be times where there'd be, let's say, a 1075 come in on the south side. We weren't assigned yet. And Rescue 2 was going to be passing our quarters coming down Broadway. So we would run up to Broadway, a few of us, and stand on the curb. And as they were passing, we would moon them.
Nice.
What are these guys going to do with that fire that we can't do? You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, man.
Yeah, there's a bunch of salty boys right here, though, man.
Whoa, look at that guy.
Hey, Chief Tracy. Chief, Patty Lee says hello, 124.
What a gentleman he was. I like Patty Lee a lot. I knew him in 124, and then, of course, he was a lieutenant in 117.
117, yep.
And he was a great asset to 117. Thank God.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Now, when you got there, you only had 5 years, and you said there was a lot of guys with a lot of time. Were they patient with you? Were they good teachers? Were they, you know, were they more or less, you know?
Every one of them was a good teacher, I'll tell you that. And they'd spend time with you. And to tell you the truth, I mean, it could be 11 o'clock at night, and all of a sudden we'd have the, you know, Halligan next to a door. We'd be talking about forcible entry. On the way to a box in the back, we'd be talking about, oh, I know that building. Oh, you got the OV, go to the right in the back. You're going to find this problem, blah, 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 or how to get through. In other words, we were talking it up on the way to the box. And then you'd go to a job, and now, you know, they're cutting us free. You can go 10-8, blah, 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 or go back to quarters. We never wanted to go back to quarters. We always wanted to tell the dispatcher, were available. And then if you hear a job coming in, of course, we were down the block.
Right.
Exactly. We'd just go from one job to the next, you know, and we were pumped.
That's when Bushwick was burning, right? Well, late 70s. You got there in what, 80 or?
For us to get into Bushwick had to be a multiple. And of course, you know what? I tell you what, those companies, they got, let's say, very proficient at row frame fires because they had so many. You look at places like Queens and the Bronx, when they have row frame fires, and I'm talking about row frames where it's common cock-off.
Yeah.
They're not very good at it.
Yeah. They usually lose
They
a
don't know how
few.
to cover off at the pass.
Thank God they have streets.
Fire breaks.
Exactly. Oh, well. Because trenches don't work in row frames. They may work.
How long did 108 remain at Tiller?
I was there. We had it for about 2 years. And we went through a light, and 102 broadsided us.
So,
And the Tiller man, he didn't have his seatbelt on, and he flew out the window, broke his knees, and it put him out of the job. And that was Jerry Sullivan. And he was one of the senior men. And I tell you what, he was such a great guy. He was in great shape. He used to play a lot of basketball. He also worked with Pudgy Walsh. Pudgy Walsh had a school where he would train young firefighters or young civilians to become firefighters. Right. You know, to go through those.
Yeah, everybody went to Pudgy's class.
We talked about that, yeah.
Right. Well, Jerry helped him out with that. Pudgy, what a great guy he was too. Yeah, funny man. I didn't get to work with him, but of course, all of these old guys, they stick around. We have reunions. 108's reunion is on October 8th, 108. You know, it's how you're going to forget the date.
Right. Do you still go?
108.
This year we didn't do it only because of
the thing. Right.
Yeah, what a shame. And we lost a few guys. Buddy Greeny just passed away. He was one of the old timers and another great guy. And Buddy Greeny, so many things, let's say, came out of 108. And I'll throw this out. One of the members in 108 was getting a medal in 1974. Gil Murtha, for a rescue he made. So of course the company was going down to City Hall to on Medal Day. So Buddy Greeny had been a former police officer. He went to the police accessory and uniform store, and he bought the numbers, the 108th precinct. They were brass numbers, 108. He bought them for everybody in the company and went down to City Hall for Gil Murtha's Medal Day, and everybody was wearing the numbers 108, and that's how the numbers came into the job, wearing them on your collar.
Really?
Is that right? I didn't know that.
Look at that little nugget he's throwing out there.
That's a big nugget. That's not a little nugget. That's a big nugget.
Man.
And that was Buddy Greeny. Now, Buddy's younger brother came on the job, and somebody was just talking about him just the other day that he set a precedent. Tony Greeny took the test when he was 17, but then he got hired years later. But when they found out he was 17 years old, he took it to court, and he set a precedent to where you could be under, the age, if you will, and still get hired. And Tommy got hired, and he came to 108 truck. And what a tough fireman he was. Wow.
That happened to my brother, actually. He took it at 16 and a half, and they found out, and they booted him out of the academy. So all four brothers would have been on. What's that?
This is Steve?
No, my brother Tom, who didn't get on the job, my other brother. He never became a fireman, but he was supposed to go. And they picked it up that he took it at 16 and a half. My father told him to take it. He said, just take it. No, they're not going to find out. Well, they found out.
Did your father work for the U.S. Post Office?
No, my father was a fireman.
Oh, you're kidding. I thought, did Steve, and Steve's your brother, right?
Steve's father-in-law worked for the post office.
That's what it was. Okay.
Yep.
Because when we got promoted to lieutenant together, and his father-in-law and my father-in-law worked together.
Oh, really?
And they were both there celebrating our promotion to lieutenant. So that was rather interesting. And then I would lose track of Steve. and we would come together again when, I guess, was he a battalion downtown? Because I was the captain of Squad 18 when he was down there.
Yep.
Was he in the 4th battalion?
He was in the 4th battalion. Yep.
Oh, the 4th, Lower East Side. Great. Okay. So that's where I got to meet him again. And then, of course, working in Queens, he's
In
my
the
dad.
division in the 4-9. Yep.
And I'm under him, a battalion chief, and of course, I'm not going to listen to him. You know,
that is always a good. That's a good thing.
I got this.
Yeah, that is always a fun. That's a funny thing. Like when you know somebody, but he outranks you, but you still show up to a job or something like that, and you know, you're just not gonna. He can tell you what to do, and you probably do it, but you're gonna do it in a way that's kind of like your way, similar.
Yeah, what do you think it's going to be? Oh, thank God you're here. I really don't know what I'm doing.
I can't tell you how many times he'd be yelling at Evans in the street, telling him to tell me to slow down driving because he'd be behind us or something. And I'd be like on 2 wheels, bro. And I'd see him in the street after the fire going like this.
You tell that guy to slow down? Who, your brother?
Yeah.
You go tell him.
Yeah.
I had a chauffeur in Ford truck take a corner one time on 2 wheels. And that's pretty scary when this was a ladder truck. It was a rear mount, and it was a 110-foot aerial. And we're coming off of 9th Avenue. It was 10th Avenue into about 46th Street. And we're up on the truck is leaning. That's it's not 2 wheels. It must be like 6, but it's only those wheels. And it was like, wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, man.
You can't believe that the tires aren't popping off the rim, right? It's just crazy.
Exactly. And Midtown is not a place that you get the speed too often, you know. There's always a lot of traffic. It was nighttime.
So did you have any memorable jobs that stick out on your head in 108? Any scary fire stories?
I had one with Ray. Ray Stealing.
Did he run out the building screaming like a woman?
No, Ray was good.
Come on. Don't ruin my story.
Trying to think.
If you panic now, you'll panic on the fire floor.
Ray was the OV one night, but he was what? What did he start out in 291 or 292?
292.
And I'm trying to think of who from 108 was in Rescue 4 that says you got to get out of here and go to 108. It might have been John Alisi or
Harry Ford.
Harry Ford, maybe? Was he?
Harry, yeah, Harry was
108.
There was a couple of guys in Rescue 4 that were from 108. Pepitone might have been one as well. Billy Pepitone. His brother was the baseball player.
Is that right?
Joe Pepitone?
Yeah, exactly. As a matter of fact, now Billy Pepitone's son right now is running for mayor in New York City. Young Billy Pepitone.
Really? Good.
His father. I hope he wins. Let's put it that way.
I hope he wins.
100%.
I get my 8-year-old son to run this city better than the guys in there now.
So we're going out the door. We're going down Broadway. It's a reported fire on Flushing Avenue right off Broadway. And we're coming down Broadway, which is an elevated train. And you make a left onto Flushing. And it looked like rubbish fire on the sidewalk because as soon as we made the turn, there was flames on the sidewalk. Unbeknownst to us, as you pull up in front of the building, it was a social club on the 2nd floor, commercial occupancy on the 1st floor, social club on the 2nd floor, and somebody had poured gasoline on the stairs, and this was burning gasoline down the stairs and gasoline on the sidewalk.
Was it an Albanian club?
No.
That's what usually. Oh, okay, because that's what usually happens with the Albanians. It's all about revenge in the Bronx with those.
It wasn't crowded like Happy Land, but it had, let's say, 5 people in the club: a bartender, a man and a woman, and 2 young girls. That the 2 young girls made it into a front room, if you will, on exposure 1 side. Ray, is the OB, goes up on the fire escape, and outside the windows was scissor gates. So he had to take the lock, open the scissor gates. He goes in with the chauffeur, who was the Fonz, by the way, and they found these 2 girls and brought them out. The inside team, Terry Coyle, John Gavigan was the officer. I forget who the other guy was. I had the roof, and I get up there, and it's really a 3-story building, but there was no bulkhead or anything like that. So I cut a hole in the roof anyway because there was no way to vent. But the inside team with Gavigan, they went to the bar area and they went to the rear, and it was very deep because it was like a dance hall. They found 3 people at the back door, and the back door was bolted shut.
Holy shit!
Iron bars across it, and they were bolted. And these people, they were so deformed from the heat of the fire. Exactly. So Ray did an outstanding job there because, they got these 2 girls out, and then Ray come up on the roof. We dropped down, and we were able to get the rear door and run into these guys where they, found these other 3 people. So Ray was a great fireman, from day one. Good guy. So to say memorable, let me mention a job one night. A former firefighter by the name of Bernie Mullen was a legend in 108, gets promoted lieutenant, and he's SA one night, and he's the officer in 108. And it was a night where we went to 3 all hands, and we had a second alarm in the morning. It was a great night.
Beautiful.
In the middle of the night, we get called out for an emergency of a guy who fell into a shaft. Okay. We get there, and basically what it was a air and light shaft in between 2 tenements. And we go into one tenement, and the only way you could get into the shaft is we had to breach the wall that was already bricked up. We breach the wall, we get out there. He's laying in a pile of garbage. He's got a broken leg, and he's got a road rash all over his body. He said he was on the roof. We think he was in the 3rd floor apartment, and the husband came home.
He had to go mod. He had to go mod.
Hey, you gotta get out. You gotta get out, bro.
Now he's lying there with a broken leg. So we get a Stokes, and Tommy Greeny was working. And as we're getting this guy ready, Tommy is singing that country and western song about how the wife got the gold mine and you got the shaft. We laid a Stokes next to this guy.
Oh,
and
my God, that's great.
His name was Ralphie Diaz. We're going, Ralphie. Now, there's 4 of us. We're going to pick you up, and we're going to put you in this here Stokes basket, okay? So it's going to hurt just a little, all right? Just be ready. So on the count of 3, all of us go, ow! He's looking at us like, what the fuck is going on here? So we get him outside. We give him EMS. But Bernie says, I don't want to lose our Stokes. That's our Stokes. So we followed him all the way to Cumberland Hospital, which is down the block from 110 truck. We drove out of our district.
Just to get it back.
Exactly, just to get the Stokes back. So that was a fun night. Let's put it that way. And then the job in the morning was a few blocks away. As soon as we turned the corner, it's blowing out the 3rd floor. Actually, 2nd floor window on the fire escape. There's 2 girls, women on the 3rd floor landing, and there's a family on the 4th floor landing, a husband and 3 children. And I'm the OB. So we pull up, and Dennis O'Brien was working. It was like that rig jumped into place. Boom. Put the maxi brake. He put, I'm on the turntable. He puts the aerial to the 3rd floor. So I'm taking the rungs 2 at a time. I get up there. I help one girl onto the aerial, and I go backwards, and she's going down. Now the next one, I help her onto the aerial. She's got, let's say, a male shirt on, a button-down shirt that's open and no bra. And
Beautiful.
She's trying to cover up, and I'm telling her, don't worry about don't worry about them things. Come on,
we're professional. Go. Don't you worry.
Exactly. So now we finally get them down to the turntable.
Did you help her on the ladder like this? Come here.
No,
just hold on to the rungs.
I'm saying we got people up there. Let's go. Gotta go. On the sidewalk next to the rig is like 4 or 5 Puerto Rican guys going, "Mommy!" You finally get them off, and then
Even in a fire.
and get the rest of the people.
Will
That's
Belinsky in the chat saying nom 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 nom.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna let them know them before I operate on them. What do you mean?
Oh
So
God.
at the 5
Pete, you had a, hold on, Kev. Pete, you had a
Go.
question in the chat. There was somebody wanted a question.
Yeah, there was a good one here. This is coming all the way from Australia from a gentleman named Chris Berg. He's saying, can you ask Jerry what techniques or skills have changed from when he started as a probie until now?
Well, I tell you what, this wouldn't be the forum for it because we could spend an hour talking.
Yeah, I was going to
Yeah.
say that's a very you could go
Well,
in
I'll tell you what.
for that. Oh my God, it's forever.
If you want to put it up at the end, I'll give you my
Yeah, we'll
email
do that. We could do that.
and let this gentleman email me because so many things have changed, and even if you will, myself, as I went up through the ranks, I had to, let's say, garner or acquire more disciplines, and I'll tell you what I mean by that. Certainly in the days that we weren't wearing masks and things like that, PPE, are you serious? I mean, were we really thinking about that? When I became a boss, well, let's put it this way. Did I ever wear a cheetah on the job?
Allegedly.
Of course I did.
Possibly.
And, exactly. And I even had it labeled Tracy Ladder 108.
in case somebody
Whose
found
is
it.
this?
Oh, Tracy's.
If the chief was going to say, I'll say, hey, chief, it's mine. But when I became a boss, I had to stop using a cheetah because if the firefighters that were working under me wanted to use a cheetah, I was responsible for their safety.
Right.
How could I, in good conscience, not want to say, guys, I want you to be safe? And I'll be honest with you. One of the first jobs I caught in Midtown, because I went from 108 truck right to the 9th Battalion, and I got assigned to 4 truck right away. One of the first trucks that I really had to go deep into a place, and I put a mask on. All of a sudden, I got claustrophobic because I wasn't used to wearing a mask.
Yeah.
I tell you what,
Right.
Oh my God. And then I'm saying to myself, how could I be scared when we got to go into this fire? We got work to do. It was an odd feeling, let me tell you. But you had to get used to it.
Yeah, no, that's pretty. That's to tell that story. You know, like you say, like we're supposed to be these tough guys and do all this stuff, but here it is. You know, to put a face piece on was making you feel worse than
Job
not having it on.
has many ways at any time to humble you, right? I mean,
I tell you what, the whole career was humbling, and old age was getting humbling. Let's put it that way. But again, I've had so many gifts in life. 90 engine was the gift to say, 90 engine, we were a 5-man engine, and much of our work, if you will, was in H-type buildings that if you had to get to the top floor, that could be 18 lengths of hose, and then you still got to go to work.
Yep.
You still have to have a length to make the apartment. And you know what? We could do it with 5 guys. And we were proud of that.
Yeah.
Put it that way. And then, of course, in the 108 truck, we were proud when chiefs would special call us to jobs because they knew we could get the job done. And you know what? One of the chiefs in the 3-5, because the 3-5 was in quarters, all the chiefs really that worked there were all role models, if you will. One of them was John. I was just going to say, because I was going to talk about his brother, who was the captain of 45 engine back in the war years. Devine. Okay, John Devine. But his brother, Donald Devine, was the captain of 45 engine, and he becomes a chief up in the battalion where 44 truck is, 44 and 92. And we're 90 engine. The fire's knocked down. We knocked down the fire. Now we want to overhaul. So we're going to shoot water around the window frame. And we yell out into the street, hey, chief, watch out. and of course, Divine doesn't move, and he gets wet. This is Donald Divine. So now he's going to come up, and he's going to break our horns because we got him wet. And he's chewing us out, blah, blah, blah. And I says, hey, Chief, isn't it to err is human and to forgive is divine? He says, divine to forgive is a human error. We weren't going to get forgiven for that. But divine was in the 3-5. But there was one chief who was real special in the 3-5, and his name was Harry Lee. And all the companies nicknamed him Thoroughly because this would be a guy that it could be 5:30 at night or it could be 5:30 in the morning. If we were out on
Thoroughly
class 3 alarm, he would teach us class 3 systems. Class 3 systems as to, the clapper valves, how the sprinkler systems work and this and that. And he gave me an education. But I used to stay up late with him. He never went to bed. And just have a chat 3 in the morning. And it was his career and experience that he was a lieutenant in Fort Truck. Him and John O'Rourke went became the chief of our department.
Yes.
The two of them were both lieutenants in 120 Truck in the war years. Both of them transferred to Fort Truck because they wanted to round out their careers to be professional. And in talking to Larry Lee, I made up my mind when I get promoted to lieutenant, that's where I want to go. I want to go to Fort Truck. And that's exactly where I went. And spent 7 years there. It was great. It was
I'm sure that's crazy. That place is, just the people in the street, right? And then they were catching work. They were kind of right in the middle there, right? They were always involved.
What street were they located on?
48th and 8th, right?
It's the west side. And the reason I say it's the west side is there's still tenements where you can go for a roof. On the east side, it's all fireproof buildings. You're never even going to see your saw. You're not going to use your saw. So it's nice to go to tenements. But when my first 6 months there, I was disappointed in that, when I got in my car to go to work in the 108 Truck, I knew I was going to go to a fire. When I was going on the train or driving to work in Fort Truck, I knew I was going to go to a 1035, an electronic false alarm. So I was getting disappointed. So 124, I was working night tour into the day tour. At 11 o'clock at night, we get special called extra truck on an all hands to a job in a commercial building on 7th Avenue between 39th and 38th Street. It's a fire on the 4th floor extending to the 5th. DeRosa's the deputy and the chief in the street, orders us to the top floor. So it's so crowded in the interior stairs. We shoot out the back. It's an exterior fire escape, 5-foot wide fire escape. We get to the 5th floor and we pop the door for 54 engine and they're knocking down the fire on the 5th floor. So we go up to the top floor and it's blowing out one window, actually a big window right to the side. And we're forcing the door. We force the door. We go in. The fire that was blowing out over there isn't in the occupancy we're in. And we're in a furrier occupancy. They sell furs. So you're basically in a cage, meaning security.
Right.
I can't find my way out of this cage so we can get into the interior hall. So I just have the guy, my irons, breach a hole in the wall right here because we had 54 came up. So 54 could shoot their water into the next room because I hadn't found the interior stairs yet. So now, okay, they're, shooting water through the breached hole. And then finally it lifts a little bit. I find the cage door, open it up. I get out into the center hallway. I'm on my hands and knees and I'm going, and the 9th Battalion was up there with us as well. This is Joe Grasso, who was a former captain of Fort Truck and a lieutenant in 227 engine and a fireman in 105 Truck. And they called him the high-rise drifter. I'm on my hands and knees and I'm going Fort Truck to Battalion 9. And I look to my left and I see a pair of shoes next to me. And I look up and he's standing there almost like he's smoking a Camel. I said, oh my God. Well, Chief, I made it to the hallway. Okay, that was the night tour. Now the next day tour. I should back up. We get back to quarters. and I want to throw my clothes into the washing machine. The other guys are washing their stuff. And since I was the covering guy, my locker is in the hallway outside the bunk room on the second floor. So I'm naked. I take my clothes, put them in a washer. I come back into the hallway, and a fireman from 13 truck that's relocated in quarters. What was her name? Fitzpatrick.
Oh, no.
Exactly. She walks out of the TV room, and I'm standing there naked, and I go, whoa, whoa, oh, okay, oh. So I go in, I get dressed. She goes downstairs. So I get dressed. I go downstairs into the kitchen. And I walk over and I whisper in her ear, "Hey, thanks for not giggling." The next day, at 11 o'clock in the morning, we get a box. It's a 1035 on 5th Avenue and about 44th Street. We go 10-8, and the dispatch is now giving me a pull box on 12th Avenue and 42nd Street, which is right in front of the Sea Line terminal. You know, it's the tourist post.
Yeah.
The Sea Line. They take you all around. Okay.
Yeah.
The Circle Line.
The Circle Line, exactly. If it's a pull box in front of the Circle Line at 12 noon during the day and you're not getting a phone alarm, this is not a fire.
Yeah, right.
So I know it's a BS box. So, okay, we're on 5th Avenue. We're headed west. Now a phone alarm is being transmitted for 8th Avenue and 44th Street for a fire in a restaurant. And I tell my chauffeur when we get to 8th Avenue, make a right-hand turn. You make a right. Rescue is sitting in front of the building already. Smoke is pouring out of the first floor. So they're 1084. I call them Manhattan dispatcher. I give them 1084 for that box, and they go 10-4. So it's basically a restaurant on fire, and it's an SRO above. It's 4 floors of an SRO, and it was a kick-ass job. And I got humbled there, if you will. We went to the second floor. We're opening up, small apartments, blah, blah, blah. I wound up going to the top floor myself, and I'm just kicking indoors because they're all small rooms. They're all SROs, right? And I gain access to all the rooms. And once I open the door, I just give it a look. If I don't see anybody, it's a negative. So I call the deputy. It's Steve DeRosa. Chief, primary on the top floor is negative. So I start going down the stairs, and the next thing I hear is the chief says, "Oh, really? I got 2 people showing in a window on the top floor." And I go,
no.
"Oh my God." I go running back upstairs. I run into this here apartment because now I see these 2 he-she's. They're at
love it.
well, that's the west side. Unlike the village was rather interesting. Here you start a company down in the West Village, and why do you have these guys 30 years old, single, wanting to work in that company? It makes you think.
Yeah.
But I got these 2 people at the window. We put up an aerial. I put them on the aerial. They're going down. I turn around. They were in a loft bed over the doorway.
What were they in?
A loft bed over the doorway.
Oh, shit.
What were they doing?
When I opened the door,
You couldn't see them. They were above you. Yeah.
So that was a humbling experience. Let's put it that way. So now we're outside. The job's getting knocked down, and there's a Red Cross van across the street where they give you hot chocolate and coffee.
Mm-hmm.
So I go over and I get a couple of hot chocolates, and I'm crossing the intersection. Come up with my guys, give them a hot chocolate. And I noticed Fitzpatrick from 13 Truck, the girl from the night before, she's standing in the intersection talking with the chaplain, the Manhattan chaplain, Julian Deacon. This was before Michael Judge. So I was walking by, I see her, and I says, "Hey, how you doing?" She goes, "Oh, wow, I didn't recognize you with your clothes on."
Priest must have been like, "What the heck?"
Exactly.
That's what.
There was a question that came in from Mr. Hank Mollet.
What a gentleman.
Mr. Mollet was wondering if what you think.
As working in Ladder 4, what did you think of the guys in Rescue 1?
Yes. Thank you.
This was the most senior company on the job, let alone a rescue company. And I knew Hank from 132, and Hank was always a gentleman. But to say there was firefighters in that company that had 20 years in rescue. And I mean, you could go down the line, Mr. Riley. And that's what they called him. I didn't even know what his first name was. Mr. In the queue. In the queue would call him Mr. Riley. But Spanky, Jackie Boyle. I mean, there was one Driscoll. Half the company. It had to be maybe 15 firefighters had more than 20 years in the company, and they were there to help you. They weren't there to take your line. They were there to give you counsel, give you suggestions, help you with something. It was what a pleasure it was working with them. The captain at the time, of course, was Brian O'Flaherty, and there's another guy. I mean, he was just cool as a cucumber, and they were so smart. What they brought to the table, let's put it that way. So it was a pleasure working with them, and it would never get in your way. You know.
When you have all those guys that have so much time, that they're only there for when things are really going bad, right? They're not there to do, like you said, to do a smoke walk or to squeeze into a one-room job or any of that crap. They're not there. They're not doing any of that shit. When
I let's say came to the 49 Battalion, and it wasn't that I transferred or put a paper in for the 49. You know, Von Essen had lifted chiefs out of Queens, and he lifted me and John Moran into the 49 Battalion. So now I'm in North Queens, and of course I knew the firefighters from 288, and I knew the firefighters from Rescue 4 because I had already been, in the command, if you will. But when I first got there, and let's say my first interactions with both 288 and Rescue 4 was this. I says, gentlemen, these companies in the 49, I want them to learn their craft. I don't really want you taking over their lines. And if I do allow you, in other words, you're not going to blow past me and go into that building and start working without me saying, okay, I want you to do this. And how that's going to work is I'll give you a mission and I'll say it face to face, right to your face. I want you to do this, do that. And as soon as I say that, I'm going to turn around and repeat it on the radio so that every firefighter in that building knows why you're in that building. So that there's no question.
Yeah, no bullshit, right? They're not going to say get out of the room or any of this other crap, whatever it was.
Because I also want those firefighters to understand if you're in the building, you're in there for a reason.
Right.
And I knew you guys were gentlemen, but it's just that I needed those units in the 4.9 and even in the 4.5, if you will. 116 truck, they were a good truck. 260, 261. They were good companies if you allow them to do their job. Mm-hmm. And that's just the point. And if they don't do their job, well, guess what? I'm going to have something to say. Trucks. Right. I want them not to hog the building. If you know a second due truck is coming in behind you, guess what? Give them some room. Or if you come in a one-way street and you got the building, well, let the second dude know to come in the other way. Give them a heads up. Things like that.
Right.
We're skipping forward, though. Let's talk about when you were captain. You bounced around the 15th, spent 9 months at 111, and you spent almost a year at 132. And that was what, in 93?
No. 111 was probably 95, mm-hmm. And 94 into 95, and then 132 was 95. And then it would be, I would run into Ellsworth Hughes, who was the Manhattan Borough commander, early 96. And I had known him, he had known me. In 35 truck, the captain was being promoted to chief. His name is Gary Ruiz. And he asked me, how you doing, blah, blah, blah. And I'll be honest with you. I did not get 111. I was there for 9 months. I put in for the spot. I put in a paper, and I only put down one company, 111. I'm not going to put down second choice, third choice, blah, blah, blah. The guy who ultimately got that spot, 111 was his second choice. He wanted 126. The captain that got 126 was more senior to him. So, of course, Mulligan was his name. He was covering in 252. So he was more senior to me, so he got the spot. And to say, had I been the captain of 111, I never would have been the captain of Squad 18. Let's put it that
Right.
way.
You would have never went there, right?
You would have never had the nickname the Squad Father.
Oh, cheers.
I spoke. Ellsworth Hughes says, what are you doing? Blah blah blah. And I just said, you know what? 35 Truck is opening up. I'd like to come back to Manhattan. You know what? A week later, I was there. It didn't make the guys in 35 Truck too happy because they had a gentleman by the name of Roberto covering, and they loved the guy.
Right.
But yet Roberto went on to become a captain of 26 Truck. He just retired. Oh, just maybe a couple of months ago.
No shit.
He's probably one of the more senior captains on the job.
A long time, yeah.
All right. So it worked out all right for him.
Absolutely.
All right.
Um,
And of course, with your personality, they warmed up to you right away, right?
Yeah.
How could they not?
Well, let's put it this way. When I was in 4 Truck, I was outspoken. If you did something stupid, I'd probably say something to you. Like, let's put it this way. If you took an elevator down in a building because the fire was on a lower floor, I would probably say something to you. So,
I hope so.
so they thought I was a prick, outspoken, blah, blah, blah. But you know what? We're all working together here. It's not like there could be 4 companies at a fire, but the 4 companies supposed to be working as a team. If one of you is going to make a mistake, we may have to go get you, because you're going to get in trouble.
Yeah. Cheeseman from R4 in the chat is saying, if you know your companies, let them go and don't micromanage them.
Amen. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'll say one thing. At one job, we had a Colliers mansion or hoarding type situation. And the lieutenant in Rescue 4, and I'm so embarrassed right now, I can't remember his name, but he was a firefighter in a 108 truck.
Williams.
No. This is later on because his father-in-law was a deputy, Phil Burns, a guy from the band too. But what an outstanding lieutenant. He went in a bathroom window. In other words, the engine was having a difficult time that they couldn't pass because it was very thin aisles, blah, blah, blah. He went in a bathroom window, and since it was a very high window, he fell into the tub, fractured his ribs, and finds the 1045. She's in the bathroom.
Larry Archer, the chief said.
Larry Archer. What a gentleman. And you know what? It was humbling. The guys had a difficult time making it in. He wasn't up their ass, and he found a way into that building. And it was through the bathroom window. Larry Archer. And look at that. Out of 108 truck, right? So now 35 truck. The squads were being formed, if you will. I'm in 35 truck 2 years. They're talking about forming squads, and they're asking for volunteers, and they're asking for officer volunteers. And I thought about it, of course. I says, wow, I'd like to entertain that. But you know what? Since Ray Downey was in charge of, let's say, the command, I wasn't going to kiss his ring. So I didn't throw my hat in the ring. I'm on vacation, and I get a call at home from Tom Von Essen. And he asked me, we have a squad in Manhattan. Would you like to be the captain of Squad 18? And I says, wow. I says, yeah, I'd like to run it past my wife. He says, well, I tell you what, I ain't got much time. I got to know now, right now. I said, okay, I'll take it.
I'm in. No shit.
He said, okay. And this was like on a Wednesday. He says, come in tomorrow and go see Gansey, have an interview with Gansey. That was going to be a Thursday. And then the very next day, Friday, was the last day of the 2 weeks that firefighters were trying out at the Rock. They were going for 2 weeks. So I show up in headquarters in my Class A's. I go up to the 7th floor. I'm just about to knock on his door. His door's open. Jerry, come on in. Sit down. He says, how you doing, Chief? He says, so you want to be the captain of Squad 18, huh? He says, yes, sir. He says, good. You got it. That was the interview.
Like this.
Exactly. He says, suggest get out to the Rock right now because they're running guys through, all these here combat challenges, courses, blah, blah, blah. So I get out there in the afternoon. I got to witness a few guys. The very next day, I got to witness Harry Lee. If any of you guys remember Harry Lee Davis.
175 guy, right?
Yeah.
24 years in 175.
Yep.
And we were almost the same age. So I see Harry
Unfortunately,
Lee.
I think he just passed away. Is that right? If I remember right?
Yeah.
He did, right?
Yeah. And you know what? Another angel in heaven. Harry Lee.
He was a gentleman.
He was a quiet guy too, man.
Say that again?
He was a quiet guy.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, he was a role model in that when he came to work, he knew he was going to be the chauffeur. We sent him to chauffeur school. He was already a chauffeur in a truck, but he had to learn the pumps and this and that. But he knew he was going to be the chauffeur. He would walk through the door. He would take his gear, put it on the rig, check out the rig, and then come in the kitchen. That's the role model he was.
Yeah, it's old school way. That's it.
To say he talked very little, yes, but when he talked, you had to listen.
Right.
There'd be times we were still responding to EMS runs and this and that. We would take it up from an EMS run, coming down the stairs, and the stairs had a doorway that led out to a fire escape, and he stopped everybody to say, hey, guys, take a look at this, blah, blah. In other words, he's holding a drill, showing guys, if you're the OV, this is how, in this building, you're going to. So, I mean, that's the kind of guy he was.
Now, how did you get him? Did you see him? Because what Cat Murphy was telling us, it was like you basically went around, you picked guys that you had your eye on if they weren't already picked.
Well, I saw him, let's say that Friday.
Right.
And I had already known that the previous captain, Garish, who also was a firefighter 175, wanted to bring Harry Lee in. And yes, we got to pick our guys. Of course, 7 former firefighters from Engine 18 was staying. So now I had to fill out the rest of the roster.
Right.
And after we picked our officers, if you will, now to say after we picked, we're in a conference room in headquarters that was adjacent to or across the hall from Von Essen's office. Okay, so it's a large conference table, let's say about 15, 20 feet long. And all the captains, the new Rossweiler, Murphy, all the new captains are there. Ray Downey, of course, Von Essen, blah, blah, blah. We pick our officers. So then Von Essen goes, now we're going to pick our firefighters from a list. So he goes, all right, Tracy, you go first. I said, well, Commissioner, as you know, I'm coming from 35 trucks, so I'm bringing a firefighter with me. So my first choice will be Andy Fredericks. And I put it this way. I'm coming from 35 truck, so I'm bringing Larry Virgilio with me. So my first pick will be Andy Fredericks. So I got
Doing what? Bam.
the captains. You got some balls. And both of those guys would be working on 9/11.
I love Larry. I loved Larry.
Yeah.
I love that guy. He was such a cool guy, man.
How about this? Larry was a cardiovascular or a cardio trainer. What do you call him? Rehab trainer. People that have
Therapy guy. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Physical therapy or something.
Exactly. And he worked in a hospital uptown. I'm not sure if it was New York Cornell, but in any event, one of his patients was an old-time wrestler, a guy who used to wear a mask. What the heck was his name? I'll think about it.
Cool. You got to know that.
Back in the days of Skull Murphy and this and that, he wore a mask. But in any event, Larry got to know that the guy lived on the east side and he was still living in squalor and he didn't have a refrigerator. So he asked me, hey, I can get a refrigerator. Can we bring it over to this guy's house? So I says, oh, absolutely. Let's do this. Let's put it in the second piece. We'll drive over there. He was on Christie Street off of Delancey. We drove over and we brought him a refrigerator. But this is the kind of guy Larry was. He was very taking care of other people. Oh, geez, that's a bitch. I can't remember his name. But this was back in the days when, wearing a mask, all of these things. that was like the beginning, if you will, of showmanship or whatever it was, in wrestling. That was great.
How was I worked with Sclafani when he left he left 18. He came back to he went to 103. I worked with him there, and I remember him in the squad. Obviously, when I was in 288 as a fireman, and he was how was he? He wanted to do the job, right? I mean, how was he in the squad?
Aggressive. And did you ever hear of a female wrestler called Chyna?
Yeah, of course.
I think so. Yeah.
Is that his girlfriend, for crying out loud? I've seen some videos.
She lived in the neighborhood.
And
she would come by quarters and be asking for him.
He knew how to do it.
Manny Mojica and Richie were the biggest guys. Their arms weren't quite as large as Kevin's, but
I knew that was coming. I saw it.
Great.
I would make these two guys my inside team, because forget about it. We get a bang. No muff too tough.
There's no. He was definitely. That's when the internet was really starting. With chatting and dating and all that stuff.
Allegedly in the firehouse.
Allegedly, possibly. But I can't imagine what he was doing in Manhattan.
Richie wanted first do work.
Right.
He had never, real truck work. He did first do engine work, but as a squad company, you're not coming in first do.
No.
So Richie wanted to experience that because he had the aggression. And quite frankly, the very day he died, and that fire, which was a private dwelling fire, he was the first one down the basement stairs. And basically, he was going down the flue.
He was.
Because nowadays, we have more of an understanding. I mean, that gentleman from Europe asked earlier, what has changed? Well, today we understand things like flow path. We understand what that actually means.
Mm.
When I got on my crusade, if you will, wanting the job to understand that we had to change the way we do business in high-rise buildings, was because of flow paths. I understood by going down a hallway, and let's just say a residential high-rise apartment fire, that the door to the fire apartment is open. Windows haven't failed yet.
Mm-hmm.
The door is open. The public hallway is charged. The door from the attack stairwell is wide open because I have a line through it. As soon as you vent that bulkhead, that smoke is coming at me like a freight train if I don't have water on the fire.
Mm-hmm.
Even if the windows haven't failed. So I know, well, guess what? Maybe we shouldn't be venting that bulkhead just yet. And let me get water on. So I was trying to convince the job that we have to take a look at this. And it was the time that they also had me teaching what was the captain's development course. New captains, they wanted me teaching high-rise. And in my handout to these young officers, if you will, I was, let's say, postulating not to vent the bulkhead, trying to explain this to them. And I even got a memo in the bag later on from one of the captains to say, some of the things you said were rather provocative. And it would be years later that I had to, the only way I could prove my case to the job for them to take a look at the policies and procedures was I had to, let's say, partner with the National Institute of Standard Technology and do some live fire training in an actual building and then record it and bring it back to headquarters for them to say, oh my God, is that how the guys on Vandalia Street died? That's exactly how they died. And then and only then would they listen, because before that, could you picture this? Hey, Jerry, you think we should change the books? Yeah, we'll do that tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's never going to happen.
Did that have anything to do with the recent changes where the OV asked permission to vent the windows before he vents the windows? Was that kind of hand in hand with that, or did that
Believe
come
it or
about?
not, the research has since morphed, if you will. In other words, it has gotten deeper and more complex as to what they're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're also understanding that however you vent, even vertical ventilation, if you will. Rob Weedman?
Yeah.
Okay, so we understand that was the top floor of a brownstone. Okay. Yeah. The fire was in a rear bedroom. The rear bedroom and the next bedroom had a skylight above those two rooms. The hallway had a scuttle and a skylight. that scuttle skylight was taken. Skylight above the 2 bedrooms were taken, and water had not really knocked down that fire yet. Wheaton's in the front room with another firefighter from Rescue 2, and they're taking windows. Are we all in agreement so far?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was Gersbeck.
I was just gonna say it goes back, right? That was in there with him. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So he's taking windows. So you would expect that, hey, we should be good to go. Even with all of that vertical vent, the smoke, and smoke is fuel. Don't ever forget that. Smoke is fuel. And there was an active fire in the rear room. Smoke is fuel. So now he takes the windows, or they take the windows. It creates another path for that smoke to vent, and it creates a path to the front rooms, and that fire, active fire in the back, lights up all of that smoke all the way to the front room, and that room lights up on him, and he's engulfed in fire.
So you're just saying that it's because there's a lot of guys. I mean, you know, you heard this, I'm sure, before, Chief, right? All the old timers, everybody, the way you did things, you never thought about any of that stuff, right? I mean, you were taking glass when you were in 108, and there was, you know, yeah, you tried to time it, but you were venting as you went, and you did all that shit.
But you know what? The war years actually ruined us for the fact that all of those vacant buildings, they were already vented. The fires were burning as fuel control fires because
I got you.
They weren't burning as vent limited fires. And yeah, we were taking windows because we weren't wearing a mask. We were going from window to window just to catch a bullet.
Right, exactly.
So you're saying basically that all ventilation, vertical or horizontal, should be in conjunction with water being put on the fire.
Thank you. Exactly. And then we could get to, this will become controversial, Father's Day. You know, Bill Seelig was working a mutual for me. Otherwise, I would have had that fire.
Yep.
I came in to relieve him. I got into the firehouse about 4:30. I get over to the scene at 5 o'clock. I'm not gonna relieve him. So I get another radio from the command post, and at the command post, they're telling me that 2 firefighters were just taken away, John Downing and Harry Ford. And the firefighter from the 14th Division, he looked at my face as soon as he said Harry Ford. He goes, "Oh, wow, I'm sorry. Just give me the radio." I says, "Brian's still in the basement. Got to get him." But, you know, Harry Ford broke me in a 108 truck. And John Downing was one of my firefighters. He was a chauffeur of 163.
Right.
He was supposed to go on vacation that night.
Oh, my gosh.
And him and his wife were going to fly to Ireland the next day. So, okay. That being said, the way that job went down, you know, 288 is on the first floor of the hardware store, and they have a line stretched 2.5 above the cellar stairs, and there's no door to those stairs, and they hear explosions going off. And what were those explosions? I mean, people thought they were the 1-pound cylinders of propane, when in fact they were gallon cans of volatiles, VIOs, meaning lacquer thinners.
Thinners, right.
Exactly. What was happening was there was active flame down there because the fire started from gasoline, 2 kids playing in the back. The gas
under the door, right?
Yeah. The pilot light to the hot water heater ignited that gasoline. So now that gasoline is burning in the basement, and it's causing those gallon cans to boil and pop their tops. And now the atmosphere, smoke is fuel. Yes, the atmosphere was more than smoke. It was all of these here volatile gases of VIOs that was too rich to burn. Now the door that also had these steel horizontal beams, very difficult to force. They were deforming the door, if you will.
They were using a Hearst tool on it.
Right. And nobody thought of, you know, because this has taken us so long to do it, why don't we just give it a douche in there with the hand line? And all I'm saying is, if we would have introduced water, and I don't care if it was a straight stream, a fog nozzle, it really doesn't matter, because it's going to hit something and break up into droplets. That water is going to take the energy out of that fuel, that smoke, those gases. It's going to take the energy out of it, because the study that was done by a private scientist, if you will, his name is Zolosh, He determined that that fire was a backdraft, and I take exception to that. It wasn't a backdraft. It was a smoke explosion, because a smoke explosion explodes, ignites with more pressure, and that pressure took that building down.
Yep.
A backdraft wouldn't have had that much pressure. And if we would have been able to, and here where I'm going with this, water introduced into the space, even if it was just a douche, would have taken the energy.
Take the sting out of it.
Exactly.
Well, Chief,
And-
you know how this job is, right? I mean, you know how the guys are. That's the old mentality, right? We don't do that. And I got what you're saying, but I mean, I'm sure it's changing now. You know, it's been changing, but it's a long time to change those thoughts.
If we talk about it and we understand it, and we could say, have with an open mind to say, okay, I understand what you're talking about. Then maybe they'll be at a job one day where they'll be having a difficulty, blah, blah, blah. You know, hitting it hard from the yard. When I was in 90 engine and we were in 60, interchange to 68 engine, we pull up to a job. It's a vacant building. It's boarded up. It's going to take the truck, 49 truck, a little bit of time to take the front door. I jumped up and we charged the deck gun.
Yeah, that's it. That's what I'm saying. Nobody thought about that then.
We gave it a shot. And when 49 gets up there, the fire's out.
I knew you were going to say that already. That's what they used to. We don't do that much because it's kind of thought a little different. But back then, for some reason, you guys did that all the time.
And you know, Chicago does it all the time.
Yeah. One of Chief Steve's big pet peeves now is that in a basement fire with the small half basement windows, if it's roaring out of the basement, take the window and give it a fucking douche before you make a push down the basement stairs.
I'll tell you what, and had that happened at the Scofani fire,
it could have done that there too. Yeah,
it could have knocked down all of that fire and taken the heat out. You know, Murphy, he was part of the rescue effort there. Danny Murphy, and he was
Danny Murphy. Yeah.
He was at
108. Right, he was a 108 guy. I forgot about that too. Right.
Danny, what time is it? And he'd do this with an arm about that big.
Yeah.
He's a big dude. I want him coming for me. That's for sure.
Funny man. I got to work with such funny guys. I mean, John Rail was one of the more
Murphy worked there. That's right.
Oh, forget about it. John told a joke one time where it's four guys sitting around a table and they had so many jokes to tell and they didn't have enough time. They would number the jokes. So one guy would go, all right, you start. You go, number 19. 19. Everybody's laughing. Next guy, what do you got? 17. 17. And the next guy, 5. They're all laughing. And then the last guy, they go, number 4. And they're all sitting there stone faced. He's going, what? And they look at him and they go, well, some people just don't know how to tell a joke. So that being said, Captain Sal Russo, that's how he would start roll call in the morning. We'd all be standing there in front of the rig, and before he would say anything, he'd go, all right, number 19. And all of us would fall on the floor laughing, and the engine's looking over like, what the hell is going on? Holy shit. Yeah, we had a lot of fun.
What were you talking about in Squad 18? You were talking about the man. What were you saying before? The man, or who's your daddy, or what the heck were you talking about?
You had Big Daddy from 43 Truck.
Yeah, that was so
Gave
funny.
himself the name Big Daddy.
Well, you were talking about, brought in Harry Lee. When I was forming the company and I was picking these names, if you will, I wanted to pick guys that had time, most certainly Harry Lee. I knew that Gary Moore, Big Daddy, I knew he had issues, but I also knew he knew how to force doors, and I knew he knew how to cut a roof. So I was putting together a family, if you will. I wasn't putting together a company of buffs that every floor in a firehouse was going to have a department radio blasting that, oh my God, it sounds like somebody's got a job down the block. I was putting together a family of, guys that we're going to work together. We're going to train together. We're going to get to know each other. And I wanted to bring in these personalities. And certainly Gary Moore was bringing a personality.
Oh yeah. Along with everything else.
Exactly. The kitchen was on the 3rd floor. You could say 3 floors away from the front door. And when he entered the firehouse, you knew it immediately because he had such a loud mouth. So he comes with his own nickname. You know, you can call him Big Daddy, and guys are going, "Did you say Big Booty?" So okay, he has that name. So I was looking at other guys in the house to say, okay, well, he's got a couple of chins. We can call him Puff Daddy. This guy is so skinny, I'm going to call him Slim Daddy.
Oh my God!
This guy's going through a divorce. We can say, Ma, where's Daddy? Harry Lee. I said, I got a name for Harry Lee. Who's your daddy?
Who's your daddy?
Harry Lee.
The chief had a good story on Chief Kleehouse on Harry Lee about how they called him Leadfoot, but it was because did you find it? It was because he got the torment to put down on his foot.
Oh, I didn't know
He was
that.
in one. He
By
said he was in
Vigiano,
one.
it was in 103.
Yeah.
Vigiano put the tormented down on his foot.
Oh,
But he did say he drove fast, so
He drove
maybe it
fast,
helped
all right.
a little bit.
he was such a gem. You know, what an interesting neighborhood that was. Right next door to the firehouse was a brownstone. And the basement was occupied by a family of gypsies. And the wife was, you know, a card reader. She was a psychic medium. She would read your palm, your this, your that. And we had a visit, a chief come to quarters one night. And we're talking. And I'm just mentioning to the chief, I says, I don't know if you're aware. Did you notice, Chief, that there's a psychic medium next door? He goes, no. I says, you know, the tarot card reader, she's a psychic medium. And I says, it's interesting in that the woman, she has a brother. He's a dwarf. And the cops just arrested him the other day. He's also, you know, a medium, a psychic, if you will. They bring him down to the 9th precinct. And I guess the cuffs didn't fit him so well. He escaped the precinct. So somewhere in the city is a small medium at large.
Wolfie, you get that?
No, I was looking. I had to look at something. Somebody's asking me a question to ask the chief.
Yeah, the chief is looking at me like I got 3 heads. What are you doing?
But I know some other firehouses had, when they became a squad, some of the guys that stayed, there was a little bit of maybe not getting along, or
Not in our.
you guys, everybody was cool. Nobody wound up leaving, or there was no friction there. No.
The only friction we had in the very beginning was the adjoining companies that were under the impression that the firefighters that left were forced out.
Right. Yeah.
And they were calling on the radio. They wouldn't identify themselves, and they were calling us scared, things like that. You know,
Right.
even to the point where I would get on the radio and say, you know, if you had any balls, you'd say that to my face. We had a chief in the 2nd Battalion who wouldn't put up with that stuff. And he was a character. Oh, geez, I can't believe I can't remember his name, because he was the covering captain in 108 when Danny Murphy was overhauling a ceiling with a Halligan, and his turnout coat was open and his shirt was open, and he burnt the tip of his penis. And this captain filled out the CD-72 for a burnt penis. You know? How did you burn the tip? I mean, my God, on the ceiling. That was crazy. But the same chief, I go to visit him one night. He started out in 103 truck as well, and he was never the same. We figured he fell off the back step of 103. He was a little wacky. He was great. I go over to visit him, and it wasn't so much to visit him. Tony Variali was the captain of the 24 engine, and him and I studied together. You know, he started out in 67 engine. I went to 90. He transferred to 217. I transferred to 108. Then he goes to 290, and now he's the captain of 24. And while I was working, he wouldn't pull any of that stuff that 90 would pull with other companies.
What was it? Jack Kleehouse said Joe Ebert.
Exactly. Joe Ebert. Now, this guy, he was a great, great chief, firefighter, captain, but he was different. Let's put it this way. He would get on the radio and go, Battalion 2 to ladder 5 roof. son, we gave you a radio for a reason. You know. So I go over and visit in Berry Alley, and it's 11 o'clock at night, and you know they tell him you got a visitor at the house watch. I start walking upstairs, and he's coming out of the bunk room. He's getting dressed. I says, I can't believe you're in bed already. Get out of here. And so we're talking. I says, is Ebert working? He goes, yeah. So we go into the battalion office, and the aide goes, oh no, he's in his bedroom across the hall. We knock on the door. He goes, come in. He's laying there naked. And he goes, Jerry! And he comes on. He's trying to hug me.
What is
like,
junk out?
It's not what I signed up for.
No.
Joey, Jack Cleas. Now, I tell you what, there's the real deal there. What an outstanding firefighter he was. I didn't get to work with him when he was in the 108, but these are guys that could actually walk through fire. Could you imagine? There was
with
also
nothing on. With nothing.
Oh God.
You gotta convince him to come onto the show. We've been trying forever.
Oh, I hope so. Yeah, you got to get him.
I'm tired of talking about it. I got to hear this man's stories.
Did Chief Ebert have a son, George Ebert? Was he from Squad 1? He became a captain too.
Might have. Exactly, because that's not a common name. He was captain of 214 in 111. Joe Ebert. Yeah. Now 111.
Chief, you have Variel's number? I got to call him. I want to try and get him on. He's a character too. He's pretty.
That's an understatement.
I got to get him on. He's great.
I definitely have. I have his number, and I think I have his hair in the back seat of my car too. He was brushing his hair back there somewhere.
Yeah, he's pretty. That's his nephew. Chief Cleas said his nephew.
Oh, it's his nephew. So who gave you the name the Squad Father?
Oh.
Chicago.
All righty.
My friends in Chicago.
Your friends in Chicago gave it to you?
Bobby Hoff. It could have been Ray Hoff too, but Bobby Hoff. Bobby Hoff went on to become their commissioner. Bobby Hoff and his older brother Ray Hoff were the impetus to the story in Backtrack. If you recall, that story starts off with a young boy holding his father's helmet, and they're waiting to dig his father out of a building that collapsed, and his father was killed line of duty. That was young Bobby, was the little boy holding the helmet, and the older brother, who was the lieutenant, was actually Ray Hoff, the Hoff brothers. And to say, both of these guys were legends. Ray Hoff, he even had a brother-in-law who was on the job. Ray is the captain of a truck, and I'm not sure if it was 12 truck or one of the busy trucks in Chicago. And his brother-in-law is working. And you know how guys break each other's horns? So Ray was breaking his brother-in-law's horns. And the brother-in-law goes, oh, yeah? Well, I'm doing your sister. So it's so much fun.
That's always a good one to throw out there. It's always a good one.
Oh my God.
Boinking.
Exactly.
It's tough to come back from that one.
Yep.
Oh my God. I know.
Especially with family. Weird. Kind of weird.
Yeah.
So what's your greatest memory of Squad 18? What would you say your greatest accomplishment or memory?
Well, the sad memory is 9/11, of course.
Absolutely.
We had some fun times. Good work. We had the Condé Nast collapse, which was a scaffold collapse on 43rd Street, and it was also a case where Billy McGinn was the night tour, I was the day tour, so he wasn't going to leave, and of course I hopped on the rig. So we had 2 officers at that job. And when we reported in, Billy went to the collapse site, and I was walking down the street, and I looked into the lobby of the hotel across the street. I believe it was the Woodward Hotel. And I saw a gentleman at the desk, standing at the desk with blood all over his face and head. So I shot into the lobby to find out this guy came from an apartment on the 11th floor. The building was 12 stories tall. And he said, something crashed into his apartment. So now he was 2 floors below the top floor. So with that, I called what was the incident commander, was the 9th Battalion, to tell him, we had a person injured here in the lobby, and he was from an 11th floor apartment. I was going to go up and check it out. Basically, that mast, the mast that took the elevator, the exterior elevator up, the top 100 feet broke off and it flipped and came across the street and crashed through the 12th floor apartment. There was a woman living in that apartment, and then crashed through the apartment. She was the only fatality.
I remember that.
Yeah. The police, they were a pain in the neck because they got to be in on everything. ESU, building collapse, for Christ's sake. I don't need anybody walking around with a gun. And they bring a dog up because we got to look for the woman.
I remember that.
The whole center of her room was gone. You can only walk around the edges of the room. So I'm at the front door. The cop lets the dog go in, and it's a patrol dog. It's not even a cadaver dog. And if she's dead, she's only dead, 20 minutes. It's not like we're going to be smelling a body that's a week old. So this dog goes in, runs around the room. He goes into the bathroom, the dog, and the cop is going, "Hey, we got a hit. I look, the dog is drinking water out of the toilet.
It's got a hit already.
Hey, we got a hit. Oh my God. The poor woman was...
yeah, I mean, that's your day, right? If that's happening, for God's sakes, my God.
The crane falls into your apartment?
Into your apartment. My God.
And I was impressed with, I was still running. I was still jogging at the time. Now, Ray Downey had a few years on me, most certainly. And since there was no elevators at that job, we were humping the stairs. And Ray had already run 5 miles before he came to work that morning. And he's humping, we had to go up where the collapse was, where it happened, was on the 22nd floor.
Holy shit.
I'm following him to say that was pretty humbling. Ray was a good guy, great shape. When I should go back to when I first came into the command, I told you I wasn't going to throw my hat in the ring and say I want to be a squad lieutenant because I felt Ray runs the show. I'd have to kiss his ring, because he hires everybody out of Rescue 2, this, that, nepotism. So here I am. I'm now a squad captain, and we're in one of these conference rooms, and I'm sitting next to Ray. So this is like in the very beginning when we were first formed. So I'm sitting next to him, and I'm looking at him, and I'm thinking about that money with Rodney Dangerfield, the money or whatever the heck it was.
Easy money.
Easy money.
So I'm sitting next to Ray, and I'm looking at him, and he looks at me, and I go, "Can I call you Dad?"
Dad.
Can I call you Dad?
Did he get it? Did he get it?
No, he didn't get it. And I feel bad because he should only realize, this was the son-in-law that Rodney Dangerfield did not want. Can I call you Dad?
Come down. I'm mad, Allison.
I am bad. I am
so
so bad. I am the man.
I'm the man. That would have been very funny. He didn't get it.
So
I live for moments like that. We get a job in Midtown, in the squad, if you will, and 4 and 54. It's in the basement of a hotel. They're first due. They're taking care of it. Nardone is the chief of the 9th Battalion. The deputy is Hosepian. But when we arrive, it's Nardone. And he says, "Okay, I got guys taking care of the fire. Do me a favor. Can you search all the floors above, and could you do something about this smoke?" Okay, so I had some, let's say, this was before we had gas-powered fans. Had some smoke ejectors set up in the lobby, blowing in, and we vented out the top floor, out the roof, blah, blah, blah. And we took care of the searches. So as I'm done, if you will, and I'm now walking into the lobby to tell Nardone we took care of this, we took care of that. I'm basically, letting them know what we did before I now walk out of the lobby. This particular hotel, I knew of it because it was owned by one guy who was from India, used to wear a turban. He had 4 or 5 hotels in Midtown, but he only had one fire safety director covering all of them. And the day of the job, the fire safety director was not on site. So I just give Nardone my report, blah, blah, blah. So as I'm walking out the front door, I see this guy coming down the street. He's running. He's got a turban on, and he's running full force. So I know it's got to be the fire safety director. So I immediately turn around and I go back to Nardone. I says, Chief, I'm sure you're aware the fire safety director is not on site. And now this guy with the turban starts coming in the lobby. And I says, and this guy, this is the guy who's been accused of stealing all of the towels out of the hotel. He goes,
And another thing, Vonnegut.
Tracy, don't start. But you know, oh, Christ.
Sweet.
That's
All right,
pretty
so let's
fun.
fast forward a little here to you get promoted chief in 2000.
Yes.
2000. Yep. And like you said before, though, you were signed somewhere else, right? You were signed to the 3-8, and then you get the call again from Von Essen. Well, you guys are like buddies. He's calling you left and right.
Well, that one, you know, he lifted 2 chiefs out of every battalion in the 14th, and he lifted 2 chiefs in. So John Moran and I were both lifted into the 4-9. John only really stayed maybe about 6 months when Ray Downey called him and asked him to come to SOM.
Right.
And that was very nice. And then we would get another chief by the name of Jankowski, I believe his name was. And he had been a former captain at 216. And this is a rather interesting story. Because he was the captain at 216, on the morning of 9/11, he calls up 216 to say, who's working? And it was a covering officer. He says, well, who's the senior man? Danny Sir. He said, all right, put Danny Sir on the phone. And they're talking. He says, Danny, you know, this is probably going to go to a multiple. You guys are probably going to respond over to the trade center. He says, Danny, do me a favor. Watch out for everybody. And he says, you got it, Cap. I'll watch out for everybody. And the reality is that when 216 got over to the site, they were walking towards the building, and Danny Sir was the first firefighter to be killed that day because of a jumper coming
Landed
out
on
of the
him,
building.
right?
Landed on Danny. He was the first firefighter to get killed. It was not Father Judge.
Right. But he actually saved the whole company, right? Because they brought him out of there.
So for him to say, Cap, I'll take care of everybody. I'll watch out for everybody.
Wow,
He
man.
did exactly that.
He gave his whole life to do it. Honestly. Wow. Holy shit.
So Father Judge, you know, he was a good friend, if you will. I'm on a retreat with Father Judge, and I'm talking to 2 other firefighters. We're just having a conversation, and one of the firefighters is talking about how he's having trouble at home. Him and his wife, they're not getting along, blah, blah, blah. And Michael comes into the conversation. He really just comes in. He's standing there. He's not saying anything yet. He's just listening to the firefighter, you know, explain what's going on at home. And then when the firefighter stops, Michael says, maybe you should just say the short serenity prayer. And the 3 of us look at him and say, the short serenity prayer? He says, yeah, fuck it.
Yeah, I know I've been saying prayers all my life.
So
Brown's a holy guy, man.
that was Father Judge. What a great guy.
Hey, Chief, when did you get to the 4-9?
2000.
Yeah.
Oh, that's when you got to the 4-9, or that's when you went to the 3-8?
I only stayed in the 3-8. I was there maybe 4 months, and then I got lifted to the 4-9. So it was in the year 2000 as well.
And when did you retire?
09.
09.
Yeah, so I don't even know if you remember this, but I got promoted in June of 02. And not too long after that, they were doing those hammer teams. Remember, like these little hammer teams? You would drive around, do all this shit all the time.
Spot the white powder runs.
Yeah, I was doing the white powder runs right after that, right? I don't know if you remember this. So it was me and Captain Ellison, actually. We were on the Grand Central, and we were just coming under the underpass right before you get on the Triborough Bridge. And we were bullshitting, and I look over at him, and we're talking about something, and he's like, heads up. And I turn around, and I slam the brake, and I hit a brand new, like, Mercedes, like, what's the 500 class or something like that?
Nice.
So I'm like,
Oh, boy.
shit, right? So we have to make notification, and I call the dispatcher, and they send the chief, and it was you. Do you remember that? You don't remember that? You, I think he gave me one of these, like, all right, Nomini Patri, Spiritu Sancti, you know, like I did all the paperwork. I remember I had to send it, and I had just got promoted. I sent you all the paperwork, and I never heard anything else about that. But I was, you know, I remember when I saw your face, I was happy to see you, though. That's for sure.
You know what? I would forgive a lot of people. If you were a good firefighter, that forgave a lot of sins. Let's put it that way.
That's funny.
Oh, it's got a little 108 guy there. Look at that.
We got a little guy too.
Oh, yeah. He's all ready for it.
Oh, where's your PPE?
Where's your PPE? Where's your mask, Chief?
He's got a deputy helmet on. Look at that, baby.
Look at that guy.
He's got a first do-it-your-old lady's box mask.
We got to send one to the chief.
First do-it-your-old lady's box. Oh,
is it that time?
He comes in
at that time.
I think it is that time.
Oh my God.
It's about that time, isn't it, Kev?
Let me see if I have any more questions for the chief. No, I think it is that time.
Well, I think all of you have been patiently waiting for this moment, as we all call it, the old school tip of the day.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Built-in sound effect.
Oh, you fella.
Go ahead, Chief. Do it.
I was listening to Donnie Haid when you got to the tip of the day, and Donnie was saying, you know, one of his pet peeves is towel that is operating into roofs, if you will, and roofs are designed to keep water out. Well, certainly when I got to 111, I mean, 41 truck, I worked there, if you will. We didn't talk much about, you know, the master stream and using the stack tips. Of course, we did quite often enough at Bacon's. But now, when I got to 111, some of the chauffeurs there, I mean, you had the Duke, you had Charlie Williams. Charlie Williams and I come on the job together. All of these guys, outstanding. They could position those rigs however they want. But we talked about the stack tips. And also when I got the 35 truck, we did the same thing, if you will. Meaning, when you pump into the base of a towel ladder or the base of a ladder pipe, and to tell you the truth, the 108 truck, whenever we could use and put that ladder pipe to work, we would do it, and we were proud of it, to tell you the truth. But you pump in to the base of the towel ladder or the ladder pipe, you're pumping in 200 PSI, and you hope to get about 90 PSI at the nozzle. But with the stack tips, you know, with the small tip, which is about an inch and a quarter, you're going to be flowing around 500 gallons of water a minute. But really, the use of the small tip is when you have to, let's say, penetrate lath and plaster, and of course, sheetrock, you know, is more prevalent today, but lath and plaster walls and ceilings, that small tip is going to be like a water drill, and you're going to be able to penetrate those spaces. But when you have a building where there's so much fire and the fire's in your face, and you're talking about tremendous heat release rates, BTU, if you will, you take off the stacked tips and you go with the 2-inch tip, and the difference in flow is the difference between 500 gallons of water a minute or 800 gallons of water a minute. And I would say to the firefighters looking at my watch, do you want to go home today, or you want to go home tomorrow?
Get some more water.
Truckies don't really equate to water. And it really is about water, and it's the efficiency of water. And when Andy Fredericks came into the company, he was a guy in 1996, and this was, you know, we were formed in 1998. In 1996, he was a firefighter in 48 engine. He wrote an article in Fire Engineering. The title of the article was Little Drops of Water 50 Years Later. And the connotation of that, little drops of water, was that much of the fire service, and still today, are using fog nozzles. So it's little drops. And they talk about the efficiency of these drops, absorbing heat, blah, blah, blah. But in that article, Andy was talking about a phenomena referred to as black fire. In other words, the smoke, as you were crawling down the hallway of an apartment, you weren't to the fire room as yet. All of that smoke, and smoke is fuel. And we were told never put water on
Right.
smoke.
Never put water on smoke. Right.
Andy was saying, just give that smoke a shot. Give it a quick douche. Take the energy out of that smoke so it doesn't light up over your head as you're crawling down the hall. This was 1996. Also in that article, Andy was referring to as fire as energy. And he was referring to it as in megawatts and megajoules. Nobody was talking about fire as energy back in 1996. And here it is, the year 2000, 2020, 2021. And finally, firefighters are starting to talk about fire as energy. Andy was well before his time. So he understood the efficiency of water. So fire's out. That's the tip of the day.
Big water. That's it, man. Big fire, big water, right?
Amen. Isn't that the truth?
And go home today.
Yeah.
When you have a building, let's say 4 or 5 floors of fire, and you see them dumping water in on the top floor, is that efficient? No, it's not. You knock down the lower floors first, because all of those lower floors are heating the upper floors. You're just wasting that water.
Right.
You knock down the lower floors to work your way up.
Yep. Very cool.
God bless you guys.
Yeah, Chief, it was a great
Chief, great time.
talk tonight.
God bless you,
good,
Chief.
Man.
Nice,
It's
man.
always a pleasure.
I saw most of your apparel are T-shirts, right?
Yes, correct. Sweatshirts,
Firefighter-
T-shirts.
They have drawers of T-shirts. What some guys really need is underwear. Maybe if you had underwear.
Listen,
All right, we're working on it.
Pete and I wanted to make a thong for guys that says
The
first
first
2-year-old ladies box.
Yeah.
But somebody was giving me the thumbs down on the thong. I don't want to say who it is.
Sounds
We'll
Sounds-
talk about it.
sounds like Oofy.
Woofy.
Did I tell you what the shirts in Squad 18, the original shirts, was supposed to be?
No.
Well, it was going to be a blue shirt, of course. It was going to be blue. It was going to have a Maltese cross in the front, Squad 18, Pride of Manhattan. But in the back, it was going to have a set of irons on one side, hose and nozzle on the other. And in the center, it was going to be our logo. We go both ways.
I like it.
And how many shirts did you save in that?
Oh, man. Hell yeah.
On it. That,
As a matter of fact, I might steal that right now. We might make another shirt out of it. We'll send you one.
I'm in.
What do you got, Roofy?
I got to get up early tomorrow, so I'm wrapping it up myself. Actually,
Nothing else? You got nothing coming down the pike? No shout outs? No nothing? What do you have?
I got listen. I've been in the woods. That's it. I got the vice president to handle that stuff now.
I feel bad because we took you out of your element. You know what I mean? Like,
What are you
snatched
crawling
you.
around?
I'm just glad I had service tonight. I didn't have any women yelling at me.
But
Nice.
I've had a woman yelling at me all day. It's no fun.
What is that? What is that a picture of back there? What is that? One dog going one way, one dog going the other way.
Well, I like this picture.
What is that?
One horse
This
is going
one-
this way.
Oh, look at that guy.
I actually have that
This guy's saying, "What do you want
right
from me?"
here.
All right.
Hold on. There he is.
Nice.
This guy's saying,
That's
"What do you want from me?"
Gary
One dog's going one way, one guy's going the other way. Oh,
bring
look
it
at that
back,
guy.
man.
Ron,
Bring
you're
it back.
somebody.
I met Jerry.
That reminds me. I
beard,
gotta take this knife with me. Bring it back.
I can't leave it there, Ma. It's a sin. It's a
If
sin.
Roofy ain't got nothing, all I got is that we're working on the Leatherhead Nation shirt. Gave us
We
something.
are.
We didn't quite like it, so we kicked it back to him. It should be coming out soon. And as far as the road show is, we had to push that back. They had the covert
Scheduling conflicts.
well, actually, they had covert concerns up there. So
COVID. Oh,
COVID.
right.
I mean, COVID concerns up there. So we had to push that back till the first of the year or after the first of the year.
Okay.
And that's all I got.
Okay.
Chief, you got any shout outs? You want to hit anybody up?
Just so many people hate the fire riders, so shout out to them. If it wasn't for them, they keep me connected. Going to meetings at the fire riders is like sitting in the kitchen of the firehouse.
Beautiful.
The guys are hilarious. The guys are committed. The club and even Ray Strong, their club, the Axemen, they do some really wonderful things, and it's all charity based. I'm really impressed, and I'm proud to be part of it. Let's put it that way. The gentleman that started the club was the chief in the 49 Battalion, Lou Ron. So, even there, I feel privileged to be chief in the 49, following in his footsteps. So,
That's cool.
shout out to the brothers in the fire riders. They're good men.
Sweet.
Nice.
All right, Pete. Do your thing, brother.
Well, we'll go quickly tonight. If you're listening to this on audio, if you are listening on Spotify, actually, look, if you people on YouTube want to watch this or listen to this while you're cleaning your house tomorrow or whatever, head on over to Spotify or iTunes. But if you're listening to this on Spotify or iTunes or wherever fine audio podcasts are found, head on over to youtube.com/Getting Salty Experience, where we need you to do something. We need you to take your booger hook off the bang switch and please hit like, subscribe, and share. That helps us get out there. Guys, feel free to put us anywhere you want. Facebook, wherever. Get us out there. Also, head on over to Instagram.com where you'll find Mr. Refrano's shit hot collection of all the wonderful photos that he does. And last minute information for the show. So get on over to Instagram and do that. Also, guys, you know who you're brought to you by. It's GettinSaltyApparel.com. Kev told you there's some new stuff coming out. So if you want to support us, head over to GettinSaltyApparel.com. My kids will thank you. Yep. And last but not least, oh, wow. Is that a nipple ring, Governor?
Go deep in
my word.
Chief.
And last but not least, guys, if you want to email us questions for the Q&A, email us over at gettingsaltyexperience@gmail.com. And guys, that is all. That was
I got something to show
show.
everybody. I don't know if I can do it. So
put it away.
Here's one member of the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the other member of the podcast. And look who just made it into the studio tonight.
Oh, boy. Shalom. Look at me.
Look at producer Pete.
I got my helmet on. Thank you, Bryson. And thank you, Mr. Wobolinski, for my front.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, guys. Mr. Tracy, sir, thank you, Chief, for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure working with you. Pleasure having you on the show tonight.
Great job.
You never know when that phone ring, the bat phone, the Getting Salty red phone might ring for a call to the bullpen. We might need somebody in there again.
But you know what? I know we're ending the show, but one of the guys, the guy Chris Burke from Australia, said, "Hey, why don't you guys do a show on all the changes in the FDNY over the years from then to now?" So maybe we can get Chief Tracy back on for that
on a Monday night.
A goal to the bullpen, maybe a goal to the bullpen.
A call to the bullpen. Yeah, a few of the boys. We get a few boys on there. Cause some trouble.
Sounds good.
All right.
All right, fellas. Chief, thank you. Petey, Luke, go shoot something. So go shoot some innocent animal. Just
I got to do it.
Try to make its way through the forest.
Chief, stay on. Chief, stay on. We're going to see you we're going to sign off with the live stuff, and then we'll talk to you in the back.
And then Lou's got to go tucky tuck because he's got to get up early. All right.
Rabbits.
All right, fellas. Stay low and go. I'll see you.
All right. We'll see you at the big one.
Cheers, brothers.